Hello there. Are you back, I see? Wanting another story, I take it? Well, good, you're in the right place. Today's creepy, terrifying story is called Mould, Be Gone. The mould, the black bacteria, the fungus and germs, forming and growing, spreading and creeping. Jenny worked at a factory, a lab, a big building, to prevent the cells of mould's growth. Mould was her entire life. The company she was working for was trying to find a cleaner better than bleach, trying to get rid of all mould spores. New batches of the mould were delivered every day, even some types of mushrooms, and there was a whole room they let the mould grow. It was a damp plantation, exposed to the perfect breeding grounds for all different types of mould and fungus. And there were so many different types grown. Everyone who entered had to wear a special suit and oxygen tank. They could only stay in the room for a maximum of 3 minutes at a time. There were spores of black clouds and fungus growing at least a meter of each side of the walls. It was quite a large room where the mould was grown. There was also a glass window in this room, which was sprayed every 1 minute to prevent the mould growth in that area. But the mould was forever forming and growing. Jenny enjoyed her job quite a bit. She found it fascinating, watching how organized the fungus was, and found it interesting on the ways that it grew. The best conditions for the mould and fungi were always wet and damp. Jenny always kind of felt a bit sorry for the fungi and the bacteria. Found it just sad that she had to find ways to destroy it. Every day, all she'd be doing is finding ways to destroy the mould. The new cleaner they were working on was called Mould Be Gone, a new chemical that melted away any mould or spores. After a late night of testing, Jenny went home. Jenny lived very close to the factory and the labs, just walking distance for her to get back to her flat. She'd been offered the flat when she first started working at the factory, and that was almost 4 years ago now. First of all, she had to walk 5 minutes past the gate, walk past the annoying security guard, show my card, and then there was another 5-minute walk home for her. Jenny lived with her flatmate. Her name was Jill. She was a gym person, always eating chicken and rice, working out even when she was talking to you, either stretching or even squatting. Jill was a very messy flatmate. She'd leave protein dust powder all over the working tops in the kitchen, dirty cups always on the draining board. Jenny found this a very stressful part of her life, but at least Jill was company for her. Jenny didn't have any friends at the factory. For some reason, they never really kept their staff for very long, and they were replaced very quickly. So Jenny never had a chance to make a friend at work. Jenny had a hard day, so she had a long shower and she went to bed. Jenny got up late for work in the morning for some reason. Her alarm clock didn't go off. She had never been late for anything. She rushed around and got ready as fast as she could. She ran out of her flat, ran the 10 minutes back to work. She clocked in an hour late. She ran to her lab and got straight to work. As soon as she sat down at her desk, her phone rang. It was John, the big boss, from room 7. He told her that he wanted her to go to his office after lunch. He had a very stern voice. He almost sounded angry. She was nervous. She had never seen the big boss, John from room 7, before. Jenny kept on getting things wrong all day. She knocked over some chemicals. She spilt her coffee in her keyboard. Poor Jenny was a mess by the time it came round to lunch. At 1:30 it was her lunch break. They had a canteen with some vending machines and sandwiches and salads, but Jenny was way too nervous to eat. Everybody seemed to be staring at her. The last thing she wanted to do was to lose her job. At 2 p.m, Jenny walked to room 7 and knocked on the door. "Come in, Jenny," said a voice. Jenny felt a strong urge to run or to hide. It reminded her of when she had to see her head teacher at school. She felt a victim of her alarm clock. Jenny opened the door. "Oh, there you are. I have been expecting you," said John. Jenny swallowed hard. "Yes," she answered. "Please take a seat. We have a problem with our deliveries this week. We need someone to go into the Mould Zone and to retrieve some mould for our tests for at least a few days. I thought you would be the best person to do this job, Jenny." Jenny sighed in relief. She said in a sheep-like way, "I'm sorry for being late this morning." "Oh, was you?" Jenny was happy she wasn't getting fired, and she replied, "Of course I will do that." "Okay then," John said. "Great. I'm sure you know about the risks of this job, Jenny. You know, the safety measures that you need to take going into this room." Jenny said, "Of course, sir. I know all about the safety measures." "Great. Then I'll leave the schedule on your desk with the times of when you need to go and retrieve the mould." By the time Jenny got back to her desk, there was already an envelope. There was already a file on her desk with the schedule. The first mould entry into the Mould Zone was at 7 p.m. Jenny was quite excited about the chance to be in the Mould Zone. The day seemed to drag on as she got on with daily tasks and with normal mould testing. When it got to 6:30, she was shocked to find 2 big men standing behind her. "Madam, we're here to take you down to the Mould Zone." Jenny felt like a prisoner with jail guards as she walked down towards the Mould Zone. The 2 men helped her put on the orange suit and breathing mask and oxygen tanks on her back. She was heavily breathing and started to feel nervous and a bit scared. She couldn't hardly hear people. They were shouting at her. So she put her thumbs up and got some containers to collect bacteria and mold. Steam surrounded her. A big bright red light flashed on the wall with a timer of 3 minutes. The red light on the wall started flashing and the Mould Zone door opened. Jenny walked slowly into the room, the door slamming behind her. As she walked, there was thick mold spores floating around. The floor was slippery. The room was so black. Black mold, black mushrooms growing everywhere. She could hardly see a thing. Then, in the corner of her eye, she noticed something moving. She panicked and she ran towards the window, the only window you could see in or out, and started to bang against it. Bang, bang, bang. She was panicking. What would she do? There's something moving inside of this room. She started banging with her fists again. What was this thing moving in the room? Then Jenny heard a loud voice from the room. Jenny, collect the mold. It was an angry voice. It sounded just like her boss, John. Jenny looked around. She took out her container and looked for the fungus she was looking for on her list. She saw something moving again. It looked like a person, well, the back of someone, standing against the wall, wearing orange. She could only just work it out, but it was definitely something orange. Just like the suit she was wearing right now. Jenny tried to ignore it. She found the fungus and was just about to remove it into her container when an hideous hand grabbed out towards her and grabbed her glove. The hand was disgusting. All its skin was gone. It was black. You could see the muscles and the mold all growing and linking together. You could see the bones covered in mushroom. Mold completely covered the whole hand. Jenny pulled away, screaming. She turned around to notice another 4 more figures in the room with her. She looked at their deformed faces. They looked just like the old workers that used to be in the factory and in the lab that she was working in. All their faces were eaten away by the mold, taken over by bacteria. They looked disgusting. The voice started again. All these infected people were slowly walking towards Jenny inside the mold room. The voice began. These are the beginning of the end. These are the beginning of the end, Jenny. We're not making mold be gone. Oh no, we're making a new beginning of mold humans. You were just here to make sure that they couldn't be killed, and now you will be a part of them. Don't worry, you'll love it. You'll never be late again. Oh, poor Jenny. Well, she definitely had that coming for her, didn't she? A great way to end a story in death. Unknowing. Don't have any moldy nightmares, will you? And I'll probably see you next time if you'll make it. Goodbye.